All right. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to Retention Chronicles. I'm so thrilled to have a wonderful guest with us here today. Stephanie Cohen, thank you so much for making the time. Super excited to have you. I'm going to have you start off just by saying hi and giving a little bit of a background of yourself.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here. This is such an amazing podcast, and I'm really honored to be on. So, a little bit about me. I am an interior designer. I've been doing this a little bit over 15 years. In that time, I now have a amazing e-commerce website and have a 30,000 square foot furniture showroom, so a brick and mortar. In addition to doing all my interior work and personal client interior design jobs.
Yes, thank you. Wonderful. I know we're going to dive way more into that. But I wanted to ask because before we got on this recording, you were telling me about just the differences with the real estate, the having the retail branch, and then also the e-commerce D2C side of things. So which started first? Or did you start them together?
No, we didn't start them together. We actually started with the brick and mortar first. We started with the retail portion of it first. And then I want to say about 8 years ago, we just thought that it was going in a different direction. So what happens with retail is very, there are times that it's good. There is seasonal. It's also like holiday. It's just contingent to a lot of different things. Whereas if the children are at work or at school, or if it's vacation, there are different times that retail is effective, and there are times that retail is not. We started looking into the internet because it didn't have a time slot. Right. So at the comfort of your home, after any holiday, after any long day of work, you could just sit down and buy whatever you want. Mm-hmm. So we realized that the potential there was, great. So we kind of started off a little slow, and then, we kind of developed into what we have now, which we're very proud of.
Yes, as you should be. I mean, you were just saying too, you're opening up 2 new locations, which is wonderful. And the e-commerce store is doing well. So I love hearing that. Can you walk me through first, like, cause your background is in interior design. How did you kind of come to the realization that you wanted to start your own brand and have both the retail and e-commerce branches of that brand?
So when I originally started, my husband was he was an importer of area rugs.
Okay.
So I went to school. I got into law school. I never went because I had my son. And then a couple of years later, I got bored. He said, just go to design school because it's a related industry. So after I went to school and then I started working, I realized rugs was not enough. So I said, okay, let's open this furniture line. Let's open that furniture line. Fast forward about 10 years, we were like 150 lines in, and we stopped importing rugs. So then at that point, we opened a retail location, and that's how we started with the whole retail aspect of it. And now my sons work with us. Two of my sons work with us.
Oh, that's awesome.
So then when we started doing the Shopify, when we started doing the e-commerce, originally it wasn't e-commerce, it was just a platform. And we realized that that was very ineffective. When we kind of went into the e-commerce and we got the programmers and everybody pitched in to put together what we have now, we realized it's the same as having a store. It's exactly the same cost of having a very nicely located retail, 10,000 square foot operation.
That's super interesting. I haven't had that.
Essentially, it was like our second store. So that's how that happened. And then, it kind of developed from there that we realized, it's about the advertising, and it's about cross promoting, and about the marketing, and how social media plays into it. And then Stephanie Cohen became a lifestyle brand because we had another furniture store called Benjamin Rug and Furniture, which was great. It was amazing. Everything was great, but it kind of lost its footing because people want to associate with a person. So
Mm,
the Stephanie Cohen Home brand, the lifestyle brand, became a very personal thing. This is a relatable woman in our age bracket, and this is her life, and this is her lifestyle. And it became something much more personal.
mm-hmm.
And I think that's what made it effective. And all of the marketing through the lifestyle brand marketing makes it like, this is a person that I could kind of relate to. She kind of gets me. She kind of understands my style and my vibe. And it's beyond walking into like a furniture store.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Yes.
think that's what was like the edge for it.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, I have so many questions that I'm gonna dive into. That was wonderful. Thank you, Stephanie. Okay, so I find that so interesting with like having a persona to the brand, but I wanna first dive into like the differences you said when it was just like Stephanie Cohen was just a platform. And then when you started really diving into Shopify and like the e-commerce space. So can you dive into kind of the differences that you were seeing there in case anyone who's listening is like currently in that spot? What was your
Okay.
experience?
So what happens with the internet shoppers,
Mm-hmm.
you have a very small window of opportunity for their attention.
Mm.
Right? So nothing should be more than like tops 3 clicks away from their purchase. So when you have a platform that's not e-commerce, so now it's call for pricing. So I came home from work, it's 7 o'clock, I'm on the bed, and I'm like, you know what? I just need to get that cocktail table. People are coming over. Now I find the cocktail table that I want. I don't even know how much it is. I don't know how long it's going to take for me to get it. Call for pricing tomorrow. I'm going to forget. I don't
Yeah.
have time. So it kind of, even if you like bookmark it and you try to remember,
Set an
in
alarm
the
and a reminder.
interim that you are like, okay, I got to call this girl back tomorrow and see if they have it and how much is. So then you just take that product that I just showed you that you like, you Google it and you find someone that has it. And then you just buy it.
Mm-hmm.
So we were marketing correctly. We were curating correctly. The product is the same that we have now. Obviously, now we have, significantly more SKUs than we used to, but same platform conceptually, but it needs to be purchased. It needs to be purchased. And another thing we learned about a product is that it needs a glam shot.
Ah, okay.
Kind of like clothes. If you see a t-shirt, not enough. You need to see the t-shirt on someone.
Mm-hmm.
So when you see a cocktail table, it's fine, but you need to see it in a room setting to kind of get the scale of it, even though the measurements are there. Well, what does it mean? What does 35 by 56 mean? So if you see it in front of a sofa, you're like, oh, okay. I think that's what I'm looking for,
Yes. Yeah. I'm even thinking about like my own, just being in a consumer from that standpoint of like seeing a glam shot or a product image that is like, it has stuff on it too. You're just like, oh, that's really cute. I could see like that, or like, this is what I have that I could like, put on this table or style it this way or design it that way. Like it also helps make it more relatable, which ties into having, a glam shot, but also like a persona behind the brand as well.
Right. And then the glam shots typically have more than one item.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you're looking for a cocktail table and then you see the glam shot and it's the sofa, the cocktail table, side table, and a chair, or a chair, 2 chairs and a side table. So then you look at your space and you're like, yeah, okay, I like this cocktail table. I should probably do the side table because I have those 2 chairs that I don't have a table between them. And look how cute this looks. So it's also a build on your purchase.
Yes. Yeah. You're able to get that cross sell, especially with furniture too. It's like, if you want, your area to feel like it is all cohesive, it's really helpful to be able to see sets that are,
Right.
matched well together. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Okay. So now I want to go into more of the branding, having a person with the products, with the brand. So what was that whole experience like? Because I know your social, like you are the face of obviously your brand. So how was that like building that out? Was there like friction along the way? I mean, I would call you an influencer. I don't know if you would also call yourself that, but I would. I
Thank
will
you.
nominate you. So
Thank you.
what has that process been like, just seeing, you know, your personality be brought into your brand?
Shocking.
Mm.
Find myself very uninteresting.
Oh, stop
But
it. I was like totally lost in like your social media. You know, I had to be, right? Like it's part of the job.
exactly.
Yeah, website,
You know
everything.
what? It was the work of many people.
Mm-hmm.
So it started off, I don't like taking pictures. It has to be 7,000 pictures taken until one gets approved. I don't, it's not something I'm so terribly comfortable with, and I don't think it's anything special at all in any way, but we would take pictures and then, as a marketing company, they were very insistent and they were like, you have to be, it's very personal. Like you have to, when you're saying like, this is nice, you kind of have to be in it and you have to promote it. And I'm like, nobody cares. Nobody cares to look at me. Just, it's my company, but nobody needs, not much to see. And they were like, no, just be in it. So then we would do shots with and without the person. And it was so different.
Wow.
I feel like also like when I'm looking at something, you get tired of scenery images.
Mm-hmm.
You get tired of looking at tables. You look at a table after table after table after table. But then this is Stephanie's house. And this is the table that's in Stephanie's house. Or this is Stephanie's new project. And this is so then you see the person. It just makes it a little bit more dimensional.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes it definitely more relatable. So I think that's how it developed for me, because I was very hesitant and very resistant to it. But and now here we are.
Yeah. And now you're like, dang it, they might have been onto something. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's wonderful. I mean, as you were speaking, I was like, it just makes it homier, which is, I mean, a pun and cliche, whatever, because of the industry you're in. But it does, like, especially with the home, I feel like maybe because this has actually been brought up before, just internally with our team, and then through this podcast as well, of like brands who have a persona behind them, like a face of the name or face of the brand, versus brands who don't. And I feel like more often than not, it's the brands that are very inherent to like your everyday lifestyle, like, and they say a lot about you, that typically have a person attached to them. So I feel like beauty, health, anything in the home, that's more of the brands where it's like, oh, I want to see someone who I find that I can relate with, or like has a lifestyle that I want or that I already have. And then, brands that perhaps aren't as attached to your persona, then maybe they don't need that personality factor and they're able to get by on like the brand itself. So how do you feel about that? Which is like, so my question is like, versus a brand that has a personality versus not, do you think that there's like an industry split between which ones you think maybe have a persona behind them?
Listen, there's all kinds of businesses and there's all kinds of successes. I do think when a brand has a persona,
Mm-hmm.
it applies to fashion. Fashion and home are very interrelated.
Yes, yeah.
So what happens in fashion, typically about a year after happens in home. So if you look at the fashion brands that you know who Tom Ford is.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you know the brand, it becomes more of like a Ralph Lauren.
Yeah.
Ralph Lauren had that true Americana lifestyle. So when you went in and the store smelled like it and felt like it, and you were like, I just want to be a part of this equestrian life. Like it was the person and the brand he had created that kind of created that whole vibe.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it does set itself apart from just like if it's whatever, just one word and you're like, oh, this product is nice, but who is this product?
Right. What do they stand for?
What do they stand for?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. That actually leads me into my next question that I had for you is, so you have obviously great products, like very great images, right? Like you've set yourself up with all these things. Now you're looking at, how do I go to market? Like, what am I trying to portray? Like the messages behind the imagery and behind the branding. So what was the thought process behind how you're trying to portray Stephanie Cohen to the rest of the world, to your customers? Because I have like my takeaways, which I'll share, but I want to hear yours first.
I'm so interested what you have to say. I have to tell you that was just a little bit less planned out than it would seem. It was a little more organic. It was more like, okay, this is who I am. This is my life. This is what I do. I hope you think it's cool. Like
Okay.
it was, that's it. Like we didn't really try to recreate it in any way. And it was more about, okay, so, and here's the product. And this is what I love. And I think this is what's relevant. And the whole brand revolves around, contemporary on different levels, because contemporary has become such a vague word. It's anything that's not traditional is now contemporary.
Right. So that can be a lot of stuff.
It could be a million things. It could be anything that's updated is considered contemporary. Like even modern classic, which is contemporary, but it's still classic, so it was more like, okay, so I'm going to get in here and I'm going to tell you what I think is going on based on all my experience, based on, when you have e-commerce, it's national, based on what people are looking at nationally, based on what people are coming into the store for locally. I could tell you kind of what the trends are. And, when you go to market, you see what's coming out, what colors they're dictating. So it was kind of, okay, so we started off with a feminine glam, and that was my spiel. That was my niche, like feminine glam contemporary. And then it kind of took a turn, and glam kind of, as beautiful it is, and it's my everything. I love anything that has that kind of a feminine feel. Now it's organic, which is organic modern, which is also still true to me because there's a little bit more of like a feminine touch to it, but it's kind of like realizing what's going on, being on top of what is current, and then adding your own little flair. Like if everything has to be cream on taupe and ivory, I love that. I have no problem with that. But I want a little bit of mint green. I want a little bit of coral. I want a little bit of something that makes it a little bit more feminine. So I think that's how the brand got established as its identity. So you're trying to stay current. You're not going to stick to, okay, I was 18th century English. I don't care what's going on in the world. It's not like that. We're going to keep you current. We're going to tell you what's going on. We're going to tell you where the trends are going, because it's like fashion. You can't be like, okay, I just like skinny jeans and that's it. I don't care what you have to say,
Yeah, different world now.
Flaring. The jeans are flaring. Deal with it, So go with the flow. So it's that, staying on top of the trends and then kind of adding a little bit of your 2 cents to it.
Okay, yes. So if I'm hearing you correctly, is it safe to assume or safe to say that you look at the fashion trends and that's kind of what's informing the movements?
Yeah, for sure.
That's so interesting to me. See, I would never know this just not being in the space. And I assume many also don't know that that's kind of how you can maybe decipher. Cause I think about, I don't have a background in interior design, but I grew up like watching HGTV with my mom because she loved it. Right. And I feel like a lot of people also grew up just watching like home renovation shows. But like, it's seared in my brain of like, everyone has their own piece. Everyone has their own style that speaks to them. Right. So like the question that's going through my mind is, how are you deciphering, like, to have that flexibility with the market where it's like, this is what's going to trend this year. The jeans are flaring, whatever it is, but then trying to also either find your niche or find what's going to be different about your brand. So how do you try and like stay true to like the core aspects of your brand while also allowing for that flexibility in the market?
So it's exactly what I said. I go with the flow of the market. I don't fight trends. I think you need to be current.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's home is like fashion. You just want it to be beautiful. Of course, everyone has different genres that they like. You know, some people are true traditionalists, but then you update them. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like let's say you know, somebody's like, I just love that ball and claw camelback mahogany sofa.
Uh-huh.
Fine. We're going to take you out of that burgundy damask and we're going to put a taupe mohair on it. Done.
Right.
You're updated. You're cool. You're current. And you're still true to your own style. You're still
Okay,
true
gotcha.
to classic. So it's flexibility, but within reason. Like
Mm-hmm.
flexibility to the point that you come back to me in 5 years and be like, oh, I'm so happy that you
Yeah.
pushed me away, you know, because
Mm,
now I'm seeing what happened. I was going to do all of this. And 4 years later, I would have to redo it. So
right.
if you're current, then you're good for 10, 15 years. If you're right to date, you're good.
Okay.
It's not going to change by tomorrow.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's not that quick
It's
moving.
not that quick. Home is
Yeah.
not that quick.
Yeah. 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 That makes a lot of sense. Like it's little tweaks, like even to the pieces of furniture that you already have. It's like, okay, I have this staple piece that I love. Like, how do I just tweak it or how do I change it just a little bit so that it still matches what's with the times, but you
Yeah.
aren't having to redo your home, obviously,
Right. Or
you know?
even fight the bone of your home.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes you go in and the home is like super neoclassical.
Mm,
You're not going to stick like a boxy, clean white leather sofa in there. It'll look crazy.
yeah.
So you kind of just, yeah, you kind of have to make your adjustments based on what's current and what is existing with the client and what the client loves. Because at the end of the day, it's their house and it's
Yeah.
their life and it's their live. So you try to get their vision to be as accurate and current as possible, but truly, truly true to their sense of aesthetic.
Yeah, that's a great call out to remember because it is like I you can talk about like the logistical things of like, okay, this doesn't fit in what, the bone of the home, which I love that. That's so fun. Some terminology that doesn't fit with what it is, right? So you have to be flexible there. But I think it's a good reminder of like part of the reason why I'm sure you want to have the branding, and I don't even think I said it, but I think the branding is very like cozy, but it's also impressive at the same time, where it's like it's not something that someone would like enter your house and be like almost intimidated by. Like it's like, oh my god, all this like grand stuff, like that's not relatable. Like you find the nice balance with what I've seen from
Thank
your catalog. So wanted to say that, but I think that's a good
you.
reminder of the rant, like even if you have the branding and all these different all these pieces that you're recommending, it is still the person's home, so you want them to be cozy, and that of course goes back to why they're working with you to have your experience, but also the flexibility of, hey, like I love what this looks like, or I really want this here, whatever their personal opinions are in that.
Right.
It's a really cool thing to like look into both of them.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, home decor is art.
Mm-hmm.
And art is subjective. There is no right or wrong. I could say that contemporary is more current. It doesn't mean anything. If you love traditional, it doesn't matter. If I
Yeah.
love a skinny jean, you can't talk me out of it. I love a skinny jean, you can't talk me out of it. So then you wear it in a way that's more updated,
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. You adjust other pieces of the
Yeah.
whole, yeah, of the whole outfit. I also wanted to ask, so I know we said that you're looking at fashion trends, and what's on the runway and whatnot, but are you adjusting? You had mentioned your e-commerce site, that's national, right? It's not regional, but for the stores that are regional areas, are you like tweaking what is on, like what's in those showrooms based off of where those locations are? Like, because I 100%. Okay. Cause I'm, like I said, I'm from the East Coast and now I live in the Midwest. So like I see a difference in fashion just from that. And obviously train of thought, that also changes the home as well. So how can you like give me a breakdown of how you're kind of thinking about that?
So it's hard to describe and to say as a blanket statement.
Mm-hmm.
Every state is designed the same way. It's not. Some states are more, the climate is different.
Mm-hmm.
The California and Miami's are very different than New York.
Yeah.
So just based on the climate itself, design is different. So anytime we're looking at opening a location in a certain area, we spent a lot of time in that area. We spend a lot of time doing research on, the projects that were done in the area, what, the people that are in the area that fall into our demographics, what their style is, what their vibe is, what the local furniture stores over there are selling, what the better stores are selling, the more successful stores are selling versus what, just kind of do a real, for me right now, I'm fortunate. I know our locations and I know what's going on in them. Because, they're both relatively close right now. And the one in Florida, we're kind of put on the back burner for the time being, but we kind of understood that market too. But if someone is to have stores nationally, it's different. Like there is the restoration of the world that it is what it is, and you walk into it and you like it, you don't like it, that's what it is. But when you're doing interior design and doing personal interior design, my design work in Park Avenue cannot be the same as Miami.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not the same. It's not the same lifestyle. So it has to be different. The colors have to be different. The textures have to be different. You can't have velvets in Florida. You can't, and when you're in those areas that there is a lot of salt in the air, you can't have fabrics that are like silks. It just doesn't work. You need performance fabrics. Even with performance fabrics, if they're relatively close to the water, it does get ruined. There's a lot to be mindful of. So for a design store, we have to do a lot of research. So we have to really cater to what's going on in that particular area. It can't just be like a sofa is a sofa is a sofa.
Right.
It doesn't work that way for us.
Yeah, that's so interesting with all the intricacies that someone would probably never think of when they're going to buy something from your store, of like all the time and effort that has been put into, okay, like making sure that the fabrics last long and that they don't, absorb the water in the air or anything like that. That is so interesting. So remind me, you'd said there's going to be two new locations. Is that correct?
So we're looking at two new locations. One is we're in Long Island. We're, closer to the Hamptons right now. There's going to be one closer to the North Shore of Long Island, and then one in Williamsburg. So these are the two that we're kind of working on right now. And we had a location that we were looking at in Florida, but we kind of put that on hold to do these two projects first.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. That's right. Where on Long Island? I just have to ask. My roommate is from there.
Oh, I don't want to say yet.
Oh, you don't want to say? Okay. Totally fair.
Well, right now we're in Farmingdale.
Okay.
Now our first location is in Farmingdale.
Okay.
But it's
wonderful.
Be closer to where I am.
Okay. Fun. That'll be a nice little something
Surprise.
for our listeners. Yeah. To listen to. They'll have to stay in touch and get updates on it. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Well, that's really exciting.
Right,
yes. Yes. Oh my gosh, as you should. That's so exciting to have a whole new location. Yeah. Okay. So now I want to talk more about, I know we had chatted before about how it's not really, you're not like rolling out new collections of things. And we've been talking about how design changes based off of location. What other factors other than like the actual, like what the actual product is, like like indoor versus outdoor sofa, or like a chair or a table. What other factors are you considering when you're thinking about like how you're designing new spaces?
You're talking about for the internet, or just interior design as in a whole?
Just interior design as a whole, but if there's something you would like to say for the internet, obviously very happy to dive into that.
So the internet, so going back to a sofa is a sofa. It's, so if the frame is correct, if the lines are correct, it used to be like a track arm, a straight, clean sofa was, the most desirable frame. Now curves are coming in, so a little bubbly, a little curvy, but the internet works because that shape is beautiful regardless of where it is. It just becomes the material that goes on it. So if you are in the city and you have, even a deep, rich, like charcoal velvet on your sofa, that frame is magnificent. And then if you're in Florida and you take that same sofa and you put like a white performance canvas on it, like a weave. So it's the same frame, but that's why e-commerce works, because they could kind of adjust it to their own needs.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the sofa stays the same. It's just what they cover it in that kind of dictates their location.
Okay. And are you asking the customer like before they buy, like through a survey or something like that of like where they live to help someone kind of like
So the
figure it
website
out?
is the website. They kind of navigate through the website themselves. We implemented during COVID an interior design service that we do now. So we have a bunch of different packages. I have a team of people that help on the internet with people kind of drafting for them and doing furniture layouts and, selecting and doing everything. And then we have like the premium package, which, I get involved in. So let's say, we've been doing a lot since COVID. I did a bunch of projects in California during COVID.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So it's super easy. So then, your client tells you where they live. They tell you what their needs are, so regardless of, even if everybody's from the same location, people's needs are different. If you're a young couple, your needs are different than if you have children, than if you have older parents, then, everything has to be different in level of safety and different in level of durability or sexiness, so it was amazing. It was so interesting. It was something that we'd never done before. And, you're sitting in your home and you're just face to face with someone and they're like, Steph, my kids are so messy. Like, my husband wants a really deep, comfortable sofa. Like, she's like, but I still want it to be sexy. I still want it to be so easy. You draft it. They give you their measurements. You draft it. You do a couple of different layouts, and then you source the products on our website together. And then, I select the fabrics. I get the samples of the fabrics from the vendor, send it to them based on what we discussed, based on what I think the space should look like. Then I send them the sample of the carpet. They put their fabrics, their wood samples on the carpet. They approve it. That's it.
It's done.
We could not believe, because, COVID forced us all to do things that we never did.
Yeah.
We could not believe how plausible it was to be doing design work in a completely different state without ever walking into the space. It was amazing. It was something so fun and so interesting to know. And now it's a big part of our business. I have, a bunch of people that do, there's packages as small as like, I think $99 is our starting package. And they get an hour one-on-one with a designer, and they draft for them. And it's, they help them source off of the website. If you like this table, then you could do this side table and this sofa goes with it. And it's a pleasure for our customers, because now they're not at the mercy of one person being available. And it was amazing for us. And then you have the conversation, and then you hang up, and they could spend the rest of the night looking for themselves and kind of figuring out what they want. Or if they need more, attention, then they come back to you and they say, no, I just need a little bit more,
Yeah, that's such an awesome like way to innovate during COVID, and to try and take something like that you like you said, you never would have thought that it would be possible to consult with someone who's across the country, and then taking that application and like keeping it. Like, I feel like that's one of the things that I haven't seen frequently where it's like, oh, you can actually have someone consult on your home without them being there. And just to have that ability nowadays, I feel like that just helps, the accessibility of everyone having a home that they enjoy the design of. Because I know, like, even just thinking with my family, we went through renovations when I was about like 13. And so I got to see like a little bit of it, right? Like my parents were like, okay, you get to choose like the color of your walls. And I was like, so
I love
excited.
that.
Right. But
What color did you do your wall?
okay, I actually did this like very pretty faint yellow, like a sandy yellow. I was
Pretty.
really into like teal at the time. But I had my wits with me enough to not paint my teal, like my walls bright teal. So my parents, of course, were like, okay, yes, great. And then so is yellow accents. And then a lot of my like bedding and whatnot was teal. So I've since swapped it out in my childhood bedroom. I'm in a different one now. But like I saw what my parents were going through, and it was like trying to look at every single room and be like, okay, how do we, curate this like experience that you're walking through our home, and like how do we change the furniture we already have to like match this newer look, because we had an old Victorian home. So it was like I just saw like the conversations my mom was having with my dad of like, what do we think, like this maybe this, I don't know, like it was, there's so much confusion around it. And I imagine, if this was years ago, if they had someone to help them, just be like, okay, this is maybe what you should look at if you like these things, or this is the home you live in, then it would have been way easier.
Yes, it makes it way easier. And then also, people are buying from the website anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And the
Yes.
stuff that we have is mid to high end. It's not inexpensive. It's beautiful product that's made to last forever. So when you're making a big purchase like that, it's, you want to be sure. It's not like it's not transitory furniture. It's real
Mm-hmm.
furniture. So if I'm spending all this money on this buffet, am I making a correct decision? Is this correct? So it's so easy to have someone say to you, okay, let me see your house. Show me a picture. Yeah, that'll work. Like, give me the measurement. Also, one of the bigger things, more than if your style, because a lot of people do have style. A lot of people do know exactly what they want, and that's wonderful. But more than that, it's scaling.
Mm.
You're looking at a piece and it's 72 inches wide, and your wall is maybe 76 inches wide. So you're like, okay, it fits.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but do you understand what that means? It means it's rim to rim.
Yeah.
And if you're okay with that in that space, then it's fine. But sometimes people don't visually understand. Like, I want the biggest cocktail table possible. Okay, a 52-inch fits.
Yeah.
But are you sure you want like half the surface of your room covered, like, in the cocktail table? So I think when you do those 2-dimensional renderings and you do see it to scale, you're like, okay. Because you're talking about, I want a tiny cocktail table, and then you have a 100-inch sofa and you want a 24-inch cocktail table. You sure?
Yeah.
Like, okay, let me show you what that looks like. And then they look at it and they're like, oh my God, that's tiny. And I'm like, yeah, I'm trying to tell you that.
Yeah. So okay,
scaling is important.
Yeah. So with that, with scaling and having kind of that other voice to be like, wait a minute, let's check if this is like what you actually want. Do you find that, because one of the things that we run into with the customer experience just in general is after someone purchases from, it's not like retail where you go home with it in your car, right? Like e-commerce, you have to wait a little bit for it to be shipped to you. And sometimes in that period where people purchase something, especially something that is a bigger purchase, like furniture, there's like this time period where it could turn into like buyer's remorse. So do you find that because you're kind of doing that work on the front end where you're like checking, or you're saying like, hey, are you sure? Like, you want it to cover half your room or whatever. Do you find that there's still that area where you get a little bit of those customers being like, wait a minute, like pump the brakes? No. That's awesome.
Anytime that any of my staff or myself, we've done a design job online with an internet customer, we've never had buyer's remorse.
Wow.
Because it's
so
really well well thought out.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an impulse purchase.
Yes.
It's well designed, well thought out. It just becomes, affordability factor. Like, am I prepared to spend this much on this? And if it's yes, it's yes. And if it's no, it's no.
Mm-hmm.
Buyer's remorse for our industry in general is not so much, because there is restocking fees and there's shipping fees. And when you're shipping a product that is, 200 pounds,
it's heavy.
you don't want to take that risk.
Yeah.
So we do find that our customers are more educated and they're more calculated and they're not as impulsive. There are the decor pieces. Yes. The decor pieces, they don't care about the restocking. It wasn't so much to begin with. The shipping is not a big deal. That happens more than the actual furniture. Furniture, we don't typically have so much of a problem with.
Okay. That's great to hear, right? Like, I would hope.
Yeah. No, it's wonderful. Thank God. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Do you happen to know too? Cause I'm thinking, do you know like the breakdown of how many people typically, if they're shopping online, will also get the consulting packages? Like, I'm just curious. You might not know off the top of your head, but is it like majority?
It's a big website with it's a lot of traffic. So it's not as much as the actual website can accommodate. I want to say at this point, it's about 10%, which is a lot.
Yeah.
Because the 10% of our customers that up until a few years ago, we didn't even have this option for. So it's not a tremendous amount of, but it's a bigger business than that. It's still a lot of people per month, it was just business that just didn't exist for us.
Mm-hmm. And too, it reminds me just of like the 80-20 rule, where it's like those 10%, even though it's not, majority, it's like that creates a lot of work for you and your team alone. And it just being 10% because of the traffic that you're getting. And those are probably some of the most loyal customers that you have, who are like, right, I want the help. I want to come back to work with you and your team. Like, I love the products. So it's like, if that's the number and it's going well, then I think that's great.
But it's like a little bit even beyond that, because I say 10% of our customers, but it's not that. What happens is our customers go in and buy a product. It's a commerce website. So let's say you want a buffet. You go in and buy a buffet and you leave, right? Maybe you'll pick up a couple of pillows. Maybe you pick up a couple of candles, but you're not there to do your house. So this 10% became 10% design jobs that we picked up from the website.
I see.
So it's a whole other thing.
Gotcha.
So it was an add-on to our design business more than our e-commerce business.
Okay, good. I'm glad you clarified that. Yeah, because that's huge.
It's huge.
Crazy. Yeah. Yeah, that's wonderful. I love to hear that. Like, either way, of course. Additional 10% is great, but to add that
it's
on
wonderful either way.
Yeah.
But it became like it was amazing. COVID, it was a very unfortunate time for the world, not just for our country. It was a very difficult time, but I think that it changed the nature of a lot of businesses, and it changed 100%. The way that we work virtually, that we never were forced to before, whether it's children in classes, whether it's, Zoom conferences. Who Zoomed before like this?
Yeah, exactly. This podcast probably wouldn't be here, right? Like, just podcasting industry in general, it touches so many different facets and verticals and industries. Yeah.
So it was nice to see that it also related to the furniture industry and the design industry, and it had a good impact on that industry as well.
Yeah, I completely agree. It comes up a lot, e-commerce too, as an industry, right? Like, it comes up a lot of the industries changed in the market. And now, maybe we're going back towards retail and maybe having more of a balance, but for a long time there wasn't, right? So I do agree. Yeah. It's crazy, the outcomes of something that was so detrimental to go through for the world. I have one last question for you, Stephanie. So in terms of thinking about retention, for something that is, something that your purchase frequency isn't going to be like monthly or maybe even yearly, how are you thinking about customer retention in terms of like, okay, if someone is, say, 5 years down the road, they're like, okay, I want to work with you again because I've seen like there are new trends and I want to restyle or whatever. How are you looking at retention from that standpoint? Because we get, customers who it's like every 15, every 30 days, product needs to be replenished, but that's not, unless it's one of those decor items like a candle or something like that, that runs down. Hopefully someone isn't like needing to replace their sofa every year, right? So how are you looking at customer retention while keeping in mind like the purchase frequency of your customers?
So with the home, it's a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
So you design your home and hopefully you love it, and then you're good. You're good for a while. You're good. It's not about our business is not about, the pillows. It's more about the actual furniture, and the pillows are a beautiful add-on. But what it does is becomes word of mouth.
Okay.
So it's not just, and a lot of our customers, which fall into the higher end bracket, they have multiple homes, their children buy homes, their cousins buy homes, but even if it's their own, maybe if it's their second or third home or it's their children's homes, but more than that, it becomes, we worked with this company and there was this, gentleman that I worked with in that company and he was amazing. I know like you're doing your house too. So then it becomes their friends, their friends' friends, their cousins, their cousins' cousins. And that's kind of how we retain our business, because once it's done, it's done. It's not a sweatshirt. It's not something that, in 3 months, you're going to be back and like trying to buy another
right.
section,
Yeah. Okay. I love that. Yeah. So like very referral heavy of just like people being like, oh, I had a great experience. You should work with Stephanie Cohen and her team. They're awesome. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. I think that's a great note to end on too. We have a couple minutes. I know I've probably chatted your ear off, but it's been absolutely amazing.
You're so cute. It was so much fun.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It makes my day. These are like the best things in the world. So thank you again for making the time.
Oh, my pleasure. It was an honor and I really had a great time speaking to you.